They have a back in Skip Hicks that they really think has a chance to be a great back. Do they go with Skip Hicks and roll the dice and keep him in the fold, or do they go with the back here and still stick with Champ Bailey?
Well, we know that, and we heard from Ed Werder in New Orleans earlier, that Washington and New Orleans were mixing up a little cocktail there. Is it still on the bar, Ed?
Well, Chris, you know, they're very excited about the possibility of getting Ricky Williams with this pick. The problem is the deal they had worked out with the Redskins for this pick was contingent upon the player the Redskins wanted being gone. And the guy they wanted is still on the board, Champ Bailey. So now it looks like the Saints may have to not only negotiate with the Redskins, but if that deal falls through and the Redskins take Bailey, they're going to have to get on the phone and talk to the Rams, Chris.
Well, now, let me give you another scenario, Ed. They're going to get on the phone. Mike Ditka's going to get on the phone and talk with the Chicago Bears at the 7th spot. That will be an interesting phone call all unto itself. Ed, any other deals that may be happening in New Orleans? I mean, they probably have talked 5 Washington, 6 St. Louis, 7 Chicago, as far down as 8 Arizona.
Well, Chris, they've already had discussions with the Bears at the 7th spot, but they didn't think it was to get Ricky Williams. It was to get possibly David Boston with that pick, assuming, of course, at that point that Ricky Williams was already going to be off the board. So even if Williams goes 5 or 6 here, I still think you might see the Saints trade up to try to get Boston.
So this pick should take the limit of 15 rounds. If you've never watched an NFL draft before, hope the refrigerator is stocked. Each first-round pick, and there are 31 of them, there's 15 minutes, and the second round is 10 minutes. But thus far, Ricky Williams, a wonderful player. Ricky, thus far, has lost that number. We'll be back.
For centuries, our kings were cursed.
The sedans had narrow handrails, making them hard to control in the corners. Sadly, many kings lost their thrones. Eventually, it was learned, wider is better.
With its speed-sensitive steering technology, the White Track Grand Prix gives you precise control of the corners.
The ancient scriptures still read, Your young bull, Taquito.
Wider is better. The White Track Grand Prix by Pontiac.
Before you can throw like an MVP, catch like an all-star, or hit like a Hall of Famer, you'll have to work like a Gabe Kapler. K-Swiss.
Pull over. Finally, after all these years, Peru says we get this film developed, we're gonna be rich. In 1 hour, we're gonna be celebrities. We're gonna be...
Just one more, Grandpa.
Okay, sugar. Smile.
Hon, the Weekly World News is going to be here in 10 minutes.
Polaroid. See what develops.
Excuse me, we got him holding a giant yam. Y'all mind?
This ESPN News presentation of the 1999 NFL Draft is brought to you by Southwest Airlines. With fares so low, you have the freedom to fly. By 1-800-CALL-ATT for collect calls. And by AXA and the Equitable. Start building your financial future today.
Back in New York at the 64th NFL Draft began back in 1936, and this one may be one of the more historic by the time it is over. Let's go back down to New Orleans and see if the trade did indeed go down. Ed?
Well, Chris, the Ricky Williams wait is just about over. The Saints have just completed a trade with the Redskins for this pick, and they will take Ricky Williams. Terms of that not known at this time. When I was on the phone with the War Room, the celebration was so loud at that point I was unable to get the details right now. But I'll pursue those and get back to you.
So a party already underway in New Orleans, and that's a town that doesn't really need an excuse for a party. Boy, Mike Ditka was so outspoken with what he wanted to trade for Ricky Williams, and you know what? He's got his man. Let's go up to the podium and join the commissioner. Yep. You know, when it's a trade card, it takes a little longer to fill out. And we thought this was ready to go, but first they read the trade, Joe.
Especially when you talk about this kind of a trade.
With
There's a
8 or 9
whole bunch
picks.
of numbers. Yeah, it's not like here's a 1, here's a 2. It's a 1, it's a 2. It's everything in 99. It's part of 2000. And Ricky can't be disappointed because he's going someplace where somebody really expects him to contribute, wants him to contribute, and he will be embraced and needed to play there in New Orleans to give them some semblance of a running game.
Well, let's see if this is indeed the moment for the most prolific back in terms of yards in Division 1A history.
I think he's going to be sensational. I really do.
I do too. I think
he's going to be a terrific football player. And the only reason he's fallen is simply because of needs of other football teams, not because it's a reflection on his ability.
Mike Ditka loves him.
There has been a trade involving this 5th pick in the draft. The New Orleans Saints are now on the clock.
Well, they won't be on the clock for long. So the Saints have moved up, and now Ricky knows. And you know what? He's going to a place where he is going to be embraced, and he is going to get the ball immediately because there's an offense that, well, Mike Ditka knows a little bit about some decent backs. Sweetness, the all-time leader in the pros. Now he gets the all-time leader in college football, Ricky Williams.
Well, he does, and I think Ricky Williams is a phenomenal back, but they still have a quarterback problem in New Orleans. Billy Joe Hobert off an Achilles tendon injury. So you get the great back. Ricky's going to have to carry that offense because I think the triggerman still to be determined. I'm not a Billy Joe Hobert supporter as a starting quarterback in this league.
Billy Joe, everybody named Billy Joe and Bobby Joe is on the New Orleans depth chart at quarterback.
You got to be a Joe if you're there.
But they know how to hand off, and they'll learn awfully quickly. Ed Werder back to New Orleans. What's the latest? Has the reveling died down?
Probably not, but enough so that I was able to get the terms of the deal. The Saints are going to get him cheaper than they expected. They're giving up all of their draft this year and next year's number 1 and number 3 picks. So they get Ricky Williams for less than some people might have imagined. Chris, they couldn't be more excited. Mike Ditka came in with a big cigar here today. I think he just lit it up.
That's okay. That's all right.
Well, that was his original offer that was out there for about a week or so. All my draft and a 1 and a 3 next year. So, I mean, he's paying dearly. Is this too much to pay for a player of this sort?
I don't think so. You know, we talked about him, and Mel had him rated as the #1 player in the draft. When you're talking about the #1 rated player in the draft, I don't think any price is too high to pay, especially if you're in a situation where Mike Ditka is, and you say to yourself, I can't run the football. I've not been able to run the football, and I am the man that likes to run the football. Everything I do is based off that. I don't think it's too much.
Let me ask you this, Joe. Billy Joe Hobert, the starting quarterback, off an Achilles tendon injury. Is this a package with Williams and Hobert they can win with?
I think it's a package that it's a foundation to start with. I think they're going to have to go find a quarterback at some point in time, and I think they'll be able to.
Let me just tell you what the picks are. The 12th round overall pick in this year. They have no second to the Saints, so the Skins now get a 1, a 3, a 4, a 5, a 6, and a 7, and a 1 and a 3 next year. Meanwhile, Indianapolis turned some heads. Edgerrin James, not Ricky Williams. Sean Salisbury, you're with the coach of the Colts, Jim Mora. Sean?
Thanks, Boomer. Coach Mora, you talk about Ricky Williams. You surprised the world with Edgerrin James.
Well, we like both backs. We think they're both outstanding backs and are going to be very good backs in the National Football League. But basically, we feel that Edgerrin gives us a little bit more what we want to do with our offense, and that's why we picked him.
Now, I know that the Saints came at you with a big offer also, plus a couple extra veteran players. Why not take that? Is Edgerrin James that good?
Well, we like him in a lot, and we just felt like to get a back of that caliber at this point from a standpoint of our offense and how he fits in with the rest of our young guys on offense, that we just felt like we needed to have him.
Boomer, they got their running back and quarterback. Let's go back to you.
All right, John and Coach Mora, thank you very much. And now music to the ears of Mike Ditka in New Orleans as it is about to be made official.
With the 5th pick in the draft, the New Orleans Saints select Ricky Williams, running back, University of Texas. St. Louis Rams are now on the clock.
You know what? A couple of years from now, even later on this year, nobody will care that you didn't go 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, you know, and you went 5 instead of 1. If you gain what we think Ricky Williams is going to gain, 13, I mean, I don't want to put a number on it. You gain that. Who will care? that you weren't the first overall pick in the draft. It doesn't mean anything.
And from an economic standpoint,
I mean,
I don't think it's
there, but
no,
so what?
I don't think it will. I think you have to treat him like the #1 pick in the draft from an economic standpoint as well.
I mean, right, Mel? I mean, yes, economically is the difference, but so what? If he's going to play 10 years, plenty of chance to make it up, and he's not going to suffer at #5 anyway.
And if you think he was motivated last year when he won a Heisman Trophy, wait till this coming season and the seasons to come when he